You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for joining me on today's first Cabral HouseCall of the weekend. This is where we answer all of our community's questions that come in through stephencabral.com/ask Cabral over the past couple weeks, and we have some great ones for you today. Everything, of course, is all around wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging. We have a lot of product-based questions today. We have a lot of disease, and as I like to say, it's dis-ease-based questions. And we'll be going over all of those. So really just a little kind of taste of what's to come. We'll be talking about some varicose veins-based issues today, how to get rid of those, sexually transmitted diseases and viruses, how to eradicate those as well. Some CBD oil questions as well as kind of helping someone who's addicted to certain drugs. We're also going over how do we look at or how do we reduce ear infections or kind of colds in children. And the last one for today, and then of course we have another 7 questions tomorrow, is talking about the Candida protocol and some of the benefits, side effects, and other items like that. So let's get right into the first question today. It is from Jen. She writes in, "Hi, Dr. Ball. Your weekend podcasts when you answer listener questions are very quickly becoming some of my favorites. I'm learning answers to all sorts of questions I didn't even know I had. And I really like how you reference back to older podcasts for more information. Needless to say, I think your podcast is great. Do you have any suggestions for a natural way to cure razor burn or shave rash? I seem to perpetually get it around my bikini area and occasionally in 2 small spots in my armpits. Same under each arm. I've tried using every type of shave lotion, gel I know to exist, from natural ones at my local health food stores to the chemically found ones at big box stores without much luck. I read online that coconut oil can help. It's like a go-to for just about everything, but it didn't do anything for me other than make that area of my body greasy. Any ideas? Thanks, Jen." Okay, so yes, this is something that quite a few people have to deal with. So let's say who deals with it the most? Well, people who deal with it the most typically have the thickest type of hair, and that might be... Well, I mean, it can really be any culture, any nationality, but if you have thicker hair, if you have curlier hair, you're typically going to get more ingrown hairs or razor burn. Now, there's also some technique to shaving that also can cause razor burn. That's going against the grain of the hair. It's shaving multiple times over the same area. And a lot of people who use like the 3 and 4 blade razors seem to have more issues as well, rather than a single blade or an electric razor, which isn't pulling up the hair as much, causing as much issues to that actual hair follicle. So right there, that should help just give you some tips. Definitely change your shaving method, or at least the razor that you're using currently right now. Okay, so then once you have the rash, how do you get rid of it? Well, there's a couple different ways. One is actually using hydrogen peroxide. Not everyone likes to do that, but it does work. So people use a little bit of hydrogen peroxide on wherever they shaved, whether it's the bikini area or whether it's armpits. And that helps to kill a lot of the bacteria that could be causing some of these bumps as well. Some people use rubbing alcohol. That seems to work well as well. Same exact reason. Kills bacteria. It's antimicrobial. So that's why they're using it. Just keep in mind those two things do and can eliminate the actual good bacteria on your skin. So I'm a little wary of those, but they can work. Ginger, though. Ginger is a nice one. So you can rub crushed fresh ginger on the area that has the razor bumps or directly after shaving, which is what is recommended. Or you can use ginger tea that you just made a tea bag from, and you can use that tea bag on that area as well. Just kind of saturate the area just gently with the tea bag or the fresh ginger. No need to wash it off. Black cumin seed oil, that can work excellent as well. So you could try, you don't use all of them at once. You just use one at a time and you see what works for you. A lot of people use ice cubes as well. So ice cubes helps reduce the inflammation, which is partially where the bumps can come from. And do keep in mind that for the most part, a lot of people are getting these razor bumps because, and this is just anecdotal, they have a lot more toxins in their body. They may eat more sugar. They eat more vegetable-based oils. That's harmful, and it comes out as an irritant when their body is actually, let's say, damaged by the act of actually shaving the skin. So hopefully all those tips help. There were a bunch in there. Feel free to rewind, play it back again. And then I also do recommend, just in general, if the coconut oil isn't working, yes, it does work for some people, but if it isn't working for you, then no need to continue using it. You can use apple cider vinegar as a toner as well. And you could also just use a coconut oil soap or an olive oil soap. Definitely do not use antibacterial soaps on your body while washing. All right, Jen and Selma are up next. They both have the same question, so we're going to answer that today. So the questions were about varicose veins, and also Selma wrote in specifically, thank you for taking the time to read and help me with my question. I have a few dark veins, possibly spider veins, possibly varicose veins, slightly raised in my legs, maybe 2 centimeters or so long. These have occurred following 2 pregnancies, and I'd like to remove them. Is laser my only option? So while laser is an option to actually shrink or destroy that particular vein, there are other more gentle methods that I would absolutely try first. So 2 things that have worked literally for over 1,000 years are 2 very unique herbal formulas that you may not have heard of before. They're called horse chestnut and butcher's broom. And sometimes they come in the same product, which is nice. What you're going to want to do is take that 12 hours apart, 2 doses per day. So essentially what I recommend is you can take it before breakfast or with breakfast, and then with dinner or before bed. And you will take it as directed on your bottle, but I typically recommend 1 to 2 of the servings. So you always start out with 1, but if it says, based on the milligrams, 1 serving per day, I typically do 1 to 2, meaning like I double the amount to use on that particular bottle. But of course, just for 1 week, use 1 serving at a time. See if you even need the second serving as well. Okay, a couple other things. We want to be careful that a lot of people are doing things like using standing desks, and they're just kind of staying stationary in the same place. That allows for blood to pool in the leg. You'll hear me in way back on the old Cabral Concept episodes. I was against standing desks from the beginning because you are allowing that blood to pool in your legs. Now, do I want people standing? Yes, but what happens is a lot of people at these standing desks are locking out their knees, and they're causing more blood to pool in their legs. So I'm more of an advocate of taking breaks every hour or 2, whatever it might be, getting up, walking around, taking an hour walk during lunch, taking a walk after breakfast, taking a walk after dinner, whatever you can do, doing your workouts. And then, yes, you can do certainly a standing desk, but just making sure you're not just letting the blood pool there. You can use a gravity mat under your feet. You can also use a walking treadmill desk as well, where they make these tiny little treadmills that don't even have top to them. And you just put it literally under the desk and you can just walk on that as well. So there's a lot of different options there. So there's that part. Just make sure you're not standing and letting the blood pool. Dry brushing, that helps a lot. So look back at my previous episodes on dry brushing and moving the lymphatic system. Basically, you're brushing up towards the heart from the extremities. An infrared sauna can help tremendously a couple times a week. Recommend that. Compression socks, just in the beginning. You don't have to wear those for the rest of your life, but I'm sure you've been told that already. That will help. Vitamin C, vitamin E, that will help with tissue repair. And those veins, we talked about the horse chestnut and the butcher's broom, and just checking your blood pressure overall. Make sure that blood pressure isn't too high. My last things would be using a product like we offer called Florafilm, or a seropeptase-based enzyme. So these are basically proteolytic enzymes that you would take upon waking and before bed. You would just take 2 capsules upon waking, 2 capsules before bed. And what that does, that actually goes into your bloodstream. So it doesn't digest food because there's no food to be digested. It goes right into your bloodstream. And what it does, or you can take all of them upon waking, it goes in and it actually scavenges proteins and helps a lot with these arterial-based issues. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, Simone is up next. Excluding HIV or AIDS, are there any natural cures for STDs, specifically chlamydia? Thanks for any insight with this. Okay, so for STDs in general, I've done a lot of shows. You can just literally type in herpes when you go to stevencabral.com/podcast. Just type in herpes for the search. Just press Command F. Eventually we'll have a search bar on that page. Unfortunately, we don't yet because it doesn't just search that page. It searches our entire website, and our entire website is over 1,000 pages long. So it's not going to get you a very clear answer. So we're working on that. Just a little bit of technical based issues there. But if you're on a Mac, you just go to the page and you press literally Command F, and then you can type in whatever search that you would like. And you'll be able to find past episodes as well. Herpes is a big one, so that's why I'm just mentioning that right now. And you'll see lots of episodes on that. But for viruses or STDs in general, a few products that do work great are zinc, colloidal silver, echinacea, magnesium, vitamin C, and grapefruit seed extract. Okay, those work excellent. Also, keep in mind specifically for chlamydia, well, we'll put it this way. You can actually get rid of chlamydia within a week by taking an antibiotic prescribed by your PCP. Now, of course, not everyone wants to go that route, and I completely understand that, but it's yours to weigh, meaning like you can get rid of chlamydia and fairly easy using an antibiotic. Now, if you'd like to try a natural antibiotic, we have grapefruit seed extract, oregano oil, and a tea tree oil that can be used for internal use only. Now, but when I say like we, I mean like the natural health practice, we don't offer individual oregano oil, grapefruit seed extract. Of course, we offer that in our immune-based protocols, in our ear, nose, and throat protocol, but we do not offer individual oregano oil, tea tree oil. Simply, we do in our wellness center in Boston, but we have 150 different supplements here, so we can't offer all of that online, at least not yet, just because of logistics. That's all. But we'll link up to those products in the show notes, and so that all you have to do is go to today's podcast, as always, just go to stevencabral.com/484 for today's show. And I'll link up all of those different recommended brands. Like Wild Oregano is one of our favorites for oregano oil. There's so many great ones out there. So we'll link that up, and hopefully that will help you get the answers that you do need. Suzanne is up next. My husband has a CDL license and has to pass random drug tests. If he were to use the CBD oil, would he pass the test? Okay. So Suzanne, I've answered this a few times on previous Cabral house calls, and I write about it on my webpage for the CBD oil. So I know that a lot of people want to use CBD oil because of the monumental success it's having really across the board in many, many different inflammatory, mood, brain, musculature, like all sorts of different issues. But as I said before in a previous podcast, there are some people, even though it's not a drug, it's not a psychoactive drug, it's completely legal. Like in all 50 states, CBD oil is legal in the United States. And I believe it's legal in Canada and the UK as well. Some other nations too. Here's the thing. It is possible you fail a drug test depending on what that drug test is looking for. Meaning like, there's only 0.5 THC. That's almost nothing. That's very, very small. So 0.5, keep in mind, I'm not an expert in marijuana. I'm just going to put it right out there. I'm just not an expert in that. But I believe that most dosages for marijuana are about 5 to 10 milligrams minimum. Keep in mind, in CBD oil, in a full dosage, which is 10 drops, and again, this is a real high potency formula, it's only 0.5. So usually, people will not show positive on a drug test if they're only doing 1 to 2 servings per day. However, what I found in the literature, and there's not a lot of literature, what I found in the literature is that about 2% of people could test positive on a drug test. Okay, maybe they don't clear it in certain ways, whatever it might be, but about 2%. Okay, so if you ever have any questions about possibly failing a drug test and possibly losing your job, it's not worth it. I'm a really straightforward, kind of guy, and like that just is what it is. It's just not worth it. I mean, it's a great product. You'll get amazing benefit from it. But if you could possibly lose your job, probably not worth it, okay? Or fail a drug test, meaning like there are heroin addicts and there are other addicts who get drug tested. And even though CBD oil does not have the THC to create any type of psychoactive high, which means you could use it any time of the day that you want. And a lot of people use it before meetings, before public speaking, just right when they wake up to reduce anxiety, any of those things, okay? I don't know where I was going with this specifically, so we'll get back on track. So in general though, with CBD oil, unless a drug test, meaning like a really advanced drug test is testing for cannabinoids, which is what CBD oil is, then they're not going to find it. Like it's not going to be there because usually they're testing for THC markers, okay? And that's not what CBD oil has. Hopefully that answers your question. But again, when in doubt, my recommendation is always just play it safe. Okay. Lisa's up next. My question and concern is regarding the use of CBD oil for obsessive compulsive disorder in my 19-year-old son. He has had obsessive compulsive disorder about 9 years and has been on Prozac. With maturity, he has gained more control with it and wants to get off the prescription. He is not a marijuana user or illicit drug user of any kind and is against it, at least for himself, as am I. I would hate for him to start using CBD oil to mask symptoms and slip into the belief that using a drug is okay, which could lead to further usage. I would want him to learn how to manage his OCD and not cover up his symptoms. He had years of therapy but rejected it overall. My other question is that other than CBD oil, in addition to what types of treatment or testing would your practice do to help someone like him wean off of his medicine? My biggest regret as a mother is putting him on them in the first place. I wish I would have known about functional medicine 10 years ago. We recently did a talk with his doctor about CBD oil and sent her your podcast and information regarding it. She didn't agree or disagree, but I hope she finds the information beneficial. Thanks, Dr. Cabral. Okay, Lisa. So, first of all, in conventional medicine, only 5% of all MDs take one single class in 4 years on nutrition. So basically, there's no education on nutrition. And they take 0 classes on nutritional supplements. So, that's not your doctor's fault. They just have no idea what it's about, like absolutely no idea. And it's very recent. This is new, groundbreaking stuff that we're talking about. Only the last 5 years, truly. Yes, it's been studied before that, but truly the last 5 years is where a lot of our data is coming from, which is great, okay? And it's great data. And yes, it's been shown to help with obsessive compulsive disorder. Let me just talk first about that. Keep in mind, when we talk about cannabis, it's a plant. It's honestly a plant. If you're okay with using echinacea for colds, if you're okay with using, like I just talked about earlier, horse chestnut, or butcher's broom, if you're okay with using oregano oil or thyme or tea tree oil or any of these things, the cannabinoids in cannabis is no different. All we have is a media-driven mindset that cannabis is a bad thing, right? And why was that perpetuated? Well, there were political reasons for not wanting to grow hemp in the United States. And that's because of the cotton industry and other industries like that as well. Because hemp doesn't have any psychoactive components to it. You can use it to literally make concrete. You can use it to make clothing. You can make it to use paper. You can use it as a fuel. So the reason is political of why it's been kind of given the short end of the stick, but that's the reason why. So please don't think when you're using CBD oil that you're using a drug. You're using a plant. It's plant medicine. I obviously would not recommend it if it was a drug. Now, marijuana, meaning like the psychoactive component of cannabis, THC, is a drug. And it works like a drug because it has a psychoactive component, just like alcohol would be a drug, but a lot of people are okay with using alcohol. So we just to kind of look at why we've been brainwashed and what it's all about. Now, I'm not a proponent of drugs in general because they're drugs, but I'm a huge proponent of CBD oil because it's not a drug. It's a plant-based medicine. It's helping people all over the world with dementia, Parkinson's, mood-based issues. And so CBD oil would actually not be masking your son's symptoms. That's the great thing. The CBD oil actually works from a clinical perspective to help as an antioxidant for the brain and for the body, and to help with neurotransmitter production. And a lot of time with obsessive compulsive disorder, there is a lack of serotonin. There's a lack of GABA. Sometimes there's an overproduction of dopamine or a lack of dopamine. Sometimes it's an imbalance between both dopamine and serotonin. So they're just misplaced, meaning high dopamine, low serotonin. And that's not a good thing for someone with obsessive compulsive disorder. And the reason is they're getting that drive, that focus, that all of that, but they're not getting the calming neurotransmitter, which comes from tryptophan. So you can actually start taking tryptophan or 5-HTP. But again, you can't use 5-HTP because it might interact with the drugs that your son's on right now, but maybe he could use tryptophan. You'd have to look into that more. I certainly can't give you advice on that right now on this podcast, but tryptophan does come naturally in foods as well as a nutritional supplement itself. Okay, what else can we talk about? Well, a lot of times with OCD, and I have a lot of experience with that, is that there's a B vitamin deficiency. And we're not just talking about B12. B12 can be a component of that, but it's honestly, a lot of times it's more B6 deficiency, okay? Why would it be an issue with B6 deficiency? Well, again, this isn't taught in medical school or naturopathic school, but B6 is an actual cofactor in converting tryptophan to 5-hydroxytryptophan, which then converts to serotonin. which then eventually actually converts to melatonin as well. So B6 is one of those vital components that you get. So my recommendation is this. Let's keep things simple, okay? I would recommend, again, if there's no contraindications, which there shouldn't be, it's a multivitamin, mineral, and vegan protein powder. I would use the daily nutritional support powder that we offer. It is everything all in one. I would get your son to drink a smoothie every morning. I would highly recommend he get off of gluten, soy, any food dyes, put him on a good elimination-based diet, maybe use the Candida protocol that we offer. All of these things can help greatly. He can run an organic acid test, and I would also recommend, in addition to that, a hair tissue mineral analysis, and that's because sometimes with OCD, there are high heavy metals. One of those heavy metals actually being copper. Some kids and adults with high copper levels can get things like ADD, ADHD, OCD. So this is cutting edge research. I hope that you take it into consideration, and hopefully I've been some help here today. Okay. Nikki is up next. Hi again. I had written in a few months ago about an ear infection that my daughter had. 4 months later, she had another one, and I'm giving her the garlic drops as recommended, and it seemed to be working. However, today, her fever came back. We've been giving her a few drops in each ear 3 times a day. I don't know what more we should do. I really want to avoid antibiotics, and I fear she may be prone to ear infections. Her mood is fine, stool is normal, more sleepy, less hungry. A huge thanks for any insight on this and for all you do for the wellness community. Your knowledge is truly a gift to us. Okay, so yes, let's get right into this. The ear drops, the garlic drops, help to get rid of the infection in the ear. But we also have to boost the immune system in general. So my protocol with the ENT protocol, the ear, nose, and throat protocol, again, you can go to stevencabral.com/store. Just click on the little supplements tab. Very simple. Scroll down the page. You will find everything that we obviously recommend. And one of those is the ear, nose, and throat protocol. Okay, so we have those grapefruit seed extract drops. You put that right in the ear, or you can use the garlic drops like we talked about before. So again, if you would like to check out that previous podcast, just go to stevencabral.com/podcast and then press that Command F and just type in ear infections, and we'll go right through that with you as well. We'll try to link up the previous ones for ear infections too, but I'm not always able to get to those as we're talking about that on the podcast right now. Well, I want to give you what I would do for my own children. So one of those things is we always have on hand the children's immune protocol. Like that's literally what I do for my kids. People are like, oh, well, do you really do the same thing for your children? Yes, I do the same exact thing. The only thing in addition to what I have up there is sometimes I will add, meaning like after 3 days, they're really not like completely better, like really seeing it go downhill in a good way, like meaning the virus, illness, bacteria is tapering off. I'll add in a product by Sambucol. It's in a yellow box, and I'll just use about a half a teaspoon in addition to my children's protocol already that I give my kids. And so what's the children's protocol? It's vitamin D. It's a product called Natronex. We'll be using, if needed, some vitamin C in their water. So again, like this is literally what I'm using, the children's echinacea drops. And I give that to them 2 to 3 times a day, always twice a day. If they're really sick, 3 times a day. And we just keep going with that literally until they're better. Like sometimes it honestly takes 7 to 10 days if there's a really bad, sickness or illness going on, but they get better. They always do. And, we do more when we need to do more, meaning like we'll add that Sambucol, which is elderberry mixed with some vitamin C and zinc, because that's great for kids. We'll give them a little extra vitamin C. We'll do the gummies, or we'll do some vitamin C powder in their water. We will just keep going with natural-based remedies until they get better. But also for ear infections, remember, all the kids I see in my practice who get chronic ear infections or get chronic sinus infections or get psoriasis or eczema typically have a dairy, gluten, or egg allergy. So I would highly recommend, as in like really recommend, running an IgG food sensitivity test for your daughter. Have her eat some dairy, gluten, eggs a couple times for 2 days before the test, and then do the finger prick test. It's really simple to do. We have kids do it all the time if you want to test those foods. If not, and you can't afford the test, simply eliminate those foods for 3 weeks and see if a lot of these symptoms clear right up. Usually they do. But again, a lot of people like the data. I'm a data person as well, and that's why I like that lab test. So hopefully that helps answer your questions. Okay, Cassie is up next. I'm currently doing the Candida protocol and just started phase 2. I have just recently noticed a slightly significant increase in my appetite, and I'm wondering if you think this is related or unrelated, or all in my head? Thank you. Okay, last question of the day. So phase 2 basically starts around month 2. So the protocol is about 10 to 12 weeks for the whole program. Really straightforward. It is literally one of our best sellers because it gets people better results than they've ever gotten before with a Candida, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, any type of gut-based issue. And here's the reason why. I had to go through all of this myself many years ago. It was literally 15 years of trial and error. Mine's based on the absolute cutting edge research of functional medicine and orthomolecular medicine. And I also use the same herbs that would be used for 6,000 plus years in Ayurvedic medicine. I just use the best of state of the art with the best of Ayurvedic medicine. I also use things like biofilm disruptors, which very few people are using. They're starting to use more, which is great. But without a doubt, hands down, it works. I mean, why do I know it works? Because I lab test. So like literally I lab test someone, high Candida, high bacterial overgrowth. And that's an organic acids test. I'll link to it in the show notes if you want to run it for yourself. But then for maybe like 1 or 2 out of 10 people, not everyone wants to spend the money in the lab test again because they feel better. And so they say, I don't need to test again. But what we do is we lab test and we see that those levels have been eliminated. Like they don't have the high levels anymore. So, bottom line is it works fantastic. Why would your appetite increase? Well, some people's appetite increases like in a good way, meaning like they were just always feeling bloated before, holding water, skin rashes, just waking up, maybe or gassy after meals. Why does your appetite improve in a good way? Well, if you're not all clogged up in your intestines and you're not all bloated with fermented foods and gas and all that and methane in your intestines, well, now your body's going to say, oh, well, we're not all backed up. We can actually put more food, like more good quality food in our system. Plus, with our Candida protocol, you get the exclusive shopping list that I have done 18 months of research on that gives you foods, including fruit and starches that don't feed Candida and bacterial overgrowth. Again, this is cutting edge. Most people with a Candida protocol, they just eliminate all fruit and starch. Not necessary. Absolutely not necessary. They're just not looking at the levels of fructose to glucose. I've already done all of that for you. And so, you just start to feel better overall. You have more vitality. Your metabolism gets boosted. When that happens, you can eat more food and not gain weight. It's a really nice thing. So I'll link up the Candida protocol. It's one of our favorites. And it's honestly, for the price it is, that's honestly unbelievably inexpensive. That is $100 off anywhere you could ever find those products for. And why am I doing this? Simply because this is one of those things that can turn your life around. It honestly can. This is not an infomercial for it. You don't have to do it, but it's the best of the best. Honestly, when you get rid of the digestive-based issues, your life can change. It changed for me. Why would I not want to pass that on and pay it forward to others? Again, this information is not mine. I've assimilated it from over 3,000 books, studying overseas, going back to school for my doctorate of naturopathy, like all of those things. But it's not my information. It's mine to now share with others in my own way. That's it. So as always, I do appreciate each and every listen to the Cabral Concept. And I look forward to chatting with you again tomorrow on our second edition of our house call. Take care. Hope you're enjoying the weekend. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.